More than 1 million people are expected to attend events in Atlanta in the 10 days leading up to next week's Super Bowl, many hoping to paint the town red. But Atlanta's been doing some painting of its own. The project is called Off the Wall, Atlanta's civil rights and social justice journey, told through a series of murals. Organizers say it's about honoring the past, acknowledging the present, and setting aspirations for the future. Atlanta native Shaniqua Gay says she was the kid who always drew on her parents' walls. Today, she's putting the finishing touches on an entire building's wall in her hometown.
I think the connection of arts and civil rights, right, they marry together beautifully.
Gay's mural, Remembering Sweet Auburn, is an homage to the neighborhood once considered the country's most prosperous African-American community in the early 20th century. It's one of the more than 24 murals around the city expected to be completed by next week to greet the more than 100,000 visitors here for Super Bowl 53.
What do you hope they take away from it?
How amazing Atlanta is, the contribution that is given to this nation, and how can they contribute moving forward.
Gay's panorama is steps from many of Atlanta's storied civil rights landmarks. The Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Site, which includes his boyhood home, and the Ebenezer Baptist Church, where he preached. Roads bearing the names of pioneering politicians like Andrew Young Jr., a U.S. congressman, UN ambassador, and Atlanta mayor.
When you see your mural there, do you ever get used to it?
I never get used to it.
Congressman John Lewis has represented Atlanta in the U.S. House of Representatives since 1977, 14 years after he organized and addressed the March on Washington.
We must say, wake up, America, wake up!
12 years after he was beaten for leading protesters across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. Lewis received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2011. The following year, he was honored with his mural and says he's excited to have some company.
A piece of art, such as a mural, can not only tell the story, but it can inspire others to learn, to find a way to make a contribution toward creating a better Atlanta, a better Georgia, and a better world.
I love that it is a girl flexing and that that's not what you would necessarily expect.
Artists are great storytellers in that way. They surprise us.
Chris Appleton is the executive director of Wonderroot, the organization that launched the mural project. The public works of art appear throughout Atlanta, from commuter train stations to storefronts. They depict civil rights and social justice themes past and present, created with community input by 11 artists from across the country, including an undocumented dreamer living in Atlanta, and Baltimore muralist Ernest Shaw, whose Atlanta Strong, just outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium, will greet fans coming to the game on Super Bowl Sunday.
I feel like some people might say, look, it's the Super Bowl. Why are we looking at something that has to do with social justice?
I think two things. That certainly the Super Bowl and the NFL have an important role to play in addressing social justice issues in our country. I think we've seen that conversation continue to play out. But also, when these kinds of big events, right, they can be galvanizing moments.
And you also have eyeballs now that you would never have otherwise.
We do, and it takes eyeballs to make change.
A lot of my work focuses on hidden figures, if you will, the stories of women and their work in resistance and activism and service.
Muralist Charmaine Minifield's Visionary for Justice on Atlanta's West Side pays tribute to Ruby Doris Smith Robinson.
She was a young activist during the Civil Rights Movement. She was the backbone of the SNCC movement, which is the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Art is supposed to spark conversation.
Yes.
Is that what these murals are doing?
Oh my goodness. Well, I've said the term art is the heartbeat of humanity before, because it's the place where we all are equal. And if we can give each other the chance to fully, openly, freely express that, and express those stories and those narratives, then I feel like that's where the real change and understanding can really take place.
Now, all of the murals will be conserved and maintained by the city of Atlanta as part of its permanent public art collection, a legacy gift to the city, Chris Appleton says. He's from Wonderroot and the Super Bowl. And it's really amazing to see these images going up because, the NFL may not want to have the social justice conversation at the Super Bowl, but it needs to be had there because there are so many people, and that's what people are trying to change there.
What better place? I love the philosophy that art is the heartbeat of humanity.
It sure is. And who knew about Doris Smith Robinson? We know of the John Lewises.
That's exactly
and
it.
Andy Young.
Yeah, and I was going to say, that's what some of these artists said. They wanted to give voice to people you didn't know and to all different communities in social justice, LGBTQ, the Dreamers,
Yes.
and obviously the civil rights movement.
I love that story.
Thanks.